Call roll.
Councilmember Beard.
Here.
Councilmember O'Neill.
Here.
Councilmember Tu Ha Nguyen.
Here.
Councilmember Klumpenstein.
Here.
Councilmember Kim Nguyen.
Here.
Mayor Jones.
Here.
And Councilmember Bowie is absent.
Thank you. Can I ask Kingsley Okereke to lead us in an invocation, and then Councilmember Klopfenstein to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance thereafter?
Heavenly Father, be with us as we gather this evening. Purify our intentions, strengthen our purpose, and grant that in serving our community, we may serve you. Amen.
Place your hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
Indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're going to head into community spotlights, but first, just a quick question of our police on duty. Could you come forward a little bit? We're gonna honor the Pacifica High School varsity boys water polo team, but they're kind of thug-looking characters, so I just wanted a little extra protection up here while we do this, just for our own safety. Can you point out which one is your son?
wave your hand.
All right. Well, thanks. Okay, and with that, whoever's going to do the
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Garden Grove City Council is pleased to recognize Pacific High School varsity boys water polo team for winning its first CIF title this past November. Would members of the team please come forward, including Coach Eduardo and Assistant Coach Andrew. Okay. Last month, Pacifica High School and Buena Park went head-to-head in the CIF championship game, with Pacifica High School capturing the title with a score of 9-8. With the victory, Pacifica High School finished the season with an impressive record of 25-4. At this time, the mayor and city council would like to present Pacifica High School varsity boys water polo team, Coach Eduardo and Assistant Coach Andrew, with certificates of appreciation in recognition of their CIF Division 6 championship. The city of Garden Grove is extremely proud of the accomplishments of these young, outstanding athletes. We applaud your efforts, and we wish all of you the very best in your future athletic endeavors. Congratulations.
Right here. Thank you.
Cody?
I still have my sons. It's still expensive. Put on the patches and all of that.
Yeah. Scoot in.
Back it in.
We're all black, red, and white, though. It's kind of
There you go, my tippy toe.
There you go.
I don't have one of those.
you go. Give me a boost. You can, look, I can see you. Too hot. That is hysterical.
Got it?
We're good?
We good? All right.
Okay.
Big congratulations, guys. Thanks for bringing one home for Garden Grove. Coach, and for Pacifica, for the West Side.
Way to go, champions.
Coach, would you like to say a few words? Could we bug you to brag about your team and say a few words before everybody rushes out? Yeah. No, just go on the other side where you're kind of looking at us. Yeah.
Well, this is very excited. We started last year, my second year coaching here in Pacifica. And believe it or not, I didn't expect it to win because we had a lot of problems last year. So we cut the bad guys and we stayed with the good guys. This year, we had a record of 25 wins, 4 losses. Those 25s were 19 wins straight. And also we won a Division 5 championship. The help of the assistant coach, Andrew Mutafian, also the Booster Club, the administration, Ms. Patterson, David Mameli, there was a lot of help this year. And that's why we got this title. Hard work pay off. The kids believe in themselves when they work hard, so they get the trophy. So, Thank you very much.
Who was the championship game against?
Against Winnabar High School,
Oh.
and we won 9-8. So,
Yeah, wow.
so we're very
Good
close.
stuff. Awesome.
And this is like being the month of celebration, you know, so I don't know if it's appropriate to say, but I don't know if you guys watched the Orange County Register this Saturday. So the Orange County Register select me as the Coach of the Year. So.
Wow. Awesome. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. First time that I've been in a council meeting for never in my life, so this is exciting. So, okay, thank you. Thank you, thank you.
Congrats, guys. Thanks, guys.
They worked hard.
We'll wait till they all clear out.
They're foggy right now at the Rusty's Cup.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what we don't know any details yet. Oh. You ready? Let everybody settle in for just a minute.
What is it? No, that's fine. No, I understand. I'm waiting for him to give me a cue to go.
Yeah.
Today?
Okay, if we can, now that we've done our seating swap, if we can get it back together. We've got another community spotlight coming up. It's going to be hard to top that one we just did with all that enthusiasm from all the kids at Civica, but this is to honor the 50th year anniversary of Jay's Catering. I'll start by just saying I had the pleasure of knowing Jay Mastriani very well throughout the years as I was coming up on commissions and getting involved with the city, and very wonderful and gracious man who I miss dearly. And so it's great that we can honor his company in their 50th year of success and continued success in our city.
Okay, with that, yes, the city of Garden Grove City Council is mighty pleased to acknowledge and celebrate the 50th anniversary of Jay's Catering Company. And I think we have Armand J. Barragan and Debbie Mastriani here. Please come forward. Founded in 1961 by Jay and Eleanor Mastriani, Jay's Catering Company was incorporated in 1968, a family-owned business. The company moved from Huntington Beach to Garden Grove in 1976. Currently, Linda, Jay's daughter, serves as CEO of the company. Committed to providing handcrafted food and exceptional service, Jay's Catering Company serves all of Southern California, including Los Angeles and Riverside counties. From corporate deliveries and pickups, luncheons, weddings, and holiday parties, Jay's 50 years of catering and event rentals are unmatched in the Southern California. Jay's has been recognized with a number of prestigious awards and voted the best caterer in the region. As a 42-year member of the Garden Grove Chamber of Commerce, Jay's has worked with many businesses in and around Garden Grove and supported many community events and nonprofit organizations. Recently, Jay's Catering Company opened Ellis Table at Egan House in San Juan Capistrano and Ellis Table at North Beach in San Clemente. At this time, the Mayor and City Council would like to present a proclamation honoring the 50th anniversary of Jay's Catering Company as they celebrate a half a century of service to the Garden Grove community. Congratulations.
Present you with the proclamation.
Thank you very much.
And I'll pull a Bruce here, but I won't read the whole thing, but I'll just read all the whereases. So, whereas. Congratulations. Would you like to say a few words?
Thank you. I just want to say we're so thrilled to be in Garden Grove, and I hope to be here another 50 years. My grandfather started 42 years ago, and we've just been so blessed to be in Garden Grove, just a really business-friendly city, and we hope to continue that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm like once a day. So you guys are everywhere. And I never get tired of them, too.
Oh, good.
Okay, we have one more special spotlight tonight. This is our honor a Garden Grove resident and United States Army Chief Warrant Officer 4, Jeffrey John Reinberg, on his retirement after 36 years of dedicated military service. Yeah. Judah, you have to come forward too.
Yeah, come on, Yuba. I couldn't have done it without you.
Yeah, if you're going to subject him to this, you got to come forward too. It's not fair.
You usually come up here and talk.
We'll get to that part, but
Oh, no, I meant, oh, well.
we just wanted to drag you in and embarrass you a little bit and provide you with a certificate of recognition. So thanks for being a Garden Grove resident for all your years of service, protecting us. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Yeah, we enjoy having you town. I enjoy having your wife involved with Living Spring and everything that we do with the community. So present you with this recognition, and then we'll take some pictures.
Yes, today is my first day of retirement. I never leave, so that's why I've got the beard. It's coming off. So thank you very much. I've been a Garden Grove resident. Well, we moved back here in '85 after I came out of the Army the first time before I went back in. I also went to Fairview Elementary, Walton Junior High, and Garden Grove High School for my freshman year, and then I moved up to Riverside for a little bit. But we really enjoy Garden Grove. We love Main Street. We enjoy just everything that happens here, and probably we can live here the rest of our lives because of our great grandkids. You know, so it's well, regular grandkids. They're great grandkids, but they're great grandkids. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you very much. Well done to you. Thank you all. Hanging in. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Yeah.
I know you guys got a lot to do tonight because it's going to be busy because of the rentals and all that's going to be a hot night.
Yeah.
I'm going to celebrate. Y'all take care. Thank you. Oh.
All right. So now we move on. And for purpose of trying to move this meeting along in a more efficient manner, we're going to change some things out of order a little bit. So first I would ask, I'd like to actually bring forward the consideration item, the written communication consideration for Sister City Association. Is there anybody who is here to speak on that, on the Sister City Association thing? Okay, if not, then I'm going to defer oral communications till after that. So we'll move to 3A, which is a request from our Sister City Association. They're probably not expecting it.
No.
Yeah, sorry about that. I just making this up on the fly.
It is, the item itself on the agenda reads, consideration of a request from the Sister City Association of Garden Grove to waive fees for their welcome reception to be held at the Community Meeting Center on Thursday, January 18th, 2018. And staff is here to give a presentation.
Yeah. Do we necessarily need a presentation? Sorry, Janet, we don't necessarily need a presentation, I don't think, so sorry to drag you in. I pulled it up out of order, but any other questions or comments?
No.
If not, I'll move that we honor their request to waive the fee. And if I have a second. Okay, call the vote.
Motion received, 6 yes votes with Councilmember Bowie absent.
Cool. Thank you, Janet. You were amazing. Okay, and with that, we're going to go back to oral communications, because the majority of the cards I have, I believe, are for short-term rentals. There are some other ones mixed in there, but we're going to do that. And then immediately thereafter, we'll pull the item, I believe it's 8A. 8A forward for a discussion on related to short-term rentals. So we take that kind of all in one grouping. So we will open up oral communications. And I'll start with Long Lu.
Don't mind the sleeping baby. I take her everywhere with me. Hi, my name's Alexandra Jameson. This is my neighbor, Long Lu. We're here to follow up on behalf of the sidewalks on our street Palmwood here in Garden Grove. My husband and I recently moved in. My father-in-law owns the home. It's one of the only streets in our neighborhood that does not have a sidewalk, being that we both have families with young children. There's many other families in our neighborhood and on our street that also have young children. We feel as though it would be something very beneficial to the community, help ensure the families want to live there long-term, raise our children there, and make it more safe and appealing for more people to live there for a long term. Long knows a little more of the history of the event, so I'm going to let him share that information with you.
Hello, Mayor and Council. What happened was that 2 years ago, on September the 1st, we proposed and it was approved by the city commissioners that the sidewalk will be installed on our street. At the time, the person in charge of it was Tony Aquino. I believe he retired, and over the years, it's been 2 years already. The proposed sidewalk has been pushed aside, and it seems like it has been forgotten, and we haven't forgotten it yet. And we've been working the city engineer department and planning department, and they always tell us that it's not in the plan, and we want to make that a priority. It's been approved, and we want to make sure that it hasn't been forgotten yet, and we still want the sidewalk. And it is not safe. I think it was just yesterday or this morning when I went to work, a person almost ran into me when I was getting to my car, and there's no sidewalk on the street. And he walks almost all the time, and I take my son, and we came to Garden Grove because we like Garden Grove. I myself, both my wife and I, we own 2 houses on that street, and there's no sidewalk. We pay tax just like anyone else. How come we don't have it? And the street, just across the street, they have sidewalk, and we can't walk safely on our street. So we don't think it's fair.
Thank you. Is there really a baby in there, or is that just? Okay.
In there, yeah. Just a doll.
Thank you guys for coming. We'll have somebody with staff follow up with you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Mari Lane. Mari.
Hi, thank you for seeing me. I'm here concerning the short-term rentals. Also, our street doesn't have street lights or sidewalks where we are. The house just recently next to us was rehabbed, and they have put it on the market for over $1 million. They're selling it as with all furniture in it, looking to make it a short-term rental. They have it on their listing as a short-term or as a rental property. The houses in our area right now are selling for about $600,000, and this one's going for $1 million. And I used to live in Anaheim, close to Disneyland, and we had a house 2 houses away from us that was a short-term rental. And the noise, the parties, the trash were horrible with all of the people coming in and going out of that property. And I really don't want to see it next door to us. My mom's elderly, and she doesn't want to put up with the noise and the trash. And this house has already had a party on Memorial Day weekend with barbecue, swimming, music, noise, laughter, partying in the pool till I think it was about 2 o'clock at night when they finally closed down. And it's not something we want to see in our neighborhood. Like I say, we don't have sidewalks in our block, we don't have street lights, and we don't need the partying. There's also a house now that's a short-term rental on Joyzell, and they've had consistent parties with trash and noise, music, fireworks. And it's not something we want to see in our neighborhood. So I'd appreciate your consideration on that, looking into it. It's not something we want to see in a residential area. And I can understand that the people that have short-term rentals consider it a hardship that they're not able to rent out their properties for these short terms because they can make the money to pay their mortgages and whatever. But if they want to make money on a rental property, put it in an area that they can rent, as a hotel or motel, not a residential area. So I appreciate your consideration.
Thank you, ma'am. Charles Mitchell.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council and staff. Most people in the area are familiar with Dale Street. It starts at Garden Grove Boulevard and goes all the way up to La Palma. It's in between Magnolia and Beach. A lot of people prefer to use Dale because they like to avoid all the heavy traffic on the other streets. Last Saturday, I was coming home from visiting a friend in Anaheim, and I drove down Dale Street. I was stopped at the light at Orangewood, and I was behind one other car. Now, Dale changes from a 4-lane street to a 2-lane street, from Orangewood down to Chapman. Well, the light changed. We proceeded forward. We hadn't gone more than about 200 feet when I heard this roar behind me, and this car came zooming past me, past the car ahead of me, and I thought, what kind of an idiot is this? No more than I finished thinking that, here comes another one, right behind it. It must have been doing about 60 or better. And I thought, oh my, those idiots. And then a third one. Well, we continued down to Chapman, the other car and I. When we got there, no sign of those racers. After the light changed at Chapman, I continued on south toward Lamson. About halfway to Lamson, I see this pair of headlights approaching, and they are going at least 60 miles an hour northward. Well, the rest of the way home, I pondered the legitimacy of their parenthood. But nonetheless, I thought to myself, why don't we have a traffic control officer in that area? Keep an eye on this. I was going to talk to the chief about it, but I realized our police department is stretched to the limits right now with all the increased crime in the area, and they just don't have the resources to patrol every street in the city. We are looking at a proposal on a proposition to raise the taxes, the sales tax in Garden Grove by 1 penny. I'm not opposed to raising taxes for good purposes. And they claim this is going to be for the police department. Well, I hope so. But whenever I've seen proposals on the ballot, they always start off saying, this is going to be for the firefighters, or for the police department, or the biggest catch-all phrase, it's for the kids. But when that money comes in, it goes into that deep hole called the budget. And government budgets are like the old shell game. The money comes in for one purpose, but it never quite seems to go all the way to what it was intended for, because when they put it in one way, they take some out on the other side. So it doesn't seem to balance out in favor of what we wanted in the first place. I know that we have a lot of problems in Garden Grove, and we need to face them. We need to have the ability to cover everything. Now, if the people who come before this council almost every other meeting and say, well, we have this special event we're coming up on. We'd like to have the council not charge the fees. Well, I think that's all well and good, but I'm thinking to myself, anybody who's gone camping remembers how to make sourdough biscuits. You always save a little bit of the batch and start it with a new batch to make new biscuits. And I can't help thinking, why can't these organizations set aside the amount they need? They know how much it's going to be, and then they'll have it the next year instead of having to come to the council and asking the council to waive those fees. Maybe if the council stopped waiving those fees, we might have enough money to put a traffic control officer on Dale on Saturday night. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Josh McIntosh. Is Josh here? Well, we can come back to him. Oh, is he? Okay. Cool. Didn't know if you heard me.
Good evening, council, staff, and those of you who are here to join us this evening. For the record, I'm Josh McIntosh, a Garden Grove homeowner, small business owner, city commissioner, and a fourth-generation resident here. I'd like to start off by saying that it's been a while since attending a council, and mostly because I believe the council's been going in the right direction. Haven't heard me complaining in a long while. I'm excited about projects we have down in the pipeline, the cottage, the Steelcraft. I'm thrilled about the amphitheater pumping out shows downtown. Thrilled that there's only a few vacancies left on Main Street, but there are a couple of issues that I have to speak about tonight. A few more that I can have time for, so I have to save those for the next meeting. First of all, I'd like to have a follow-up on the downtown parking survey. It seems obvious that we're going to need additional proper parking structure to support the employees and the customers as we continue to build up our downtown. Heck, I had a problem finding parking here tonight. Next, I'd like to see something done with regards to our safety. We've just had way too many traffic collisions. Traffic car versus car and pedestrian. They seem mostly abundant around Hastor and Lamson, Chapman and West, and Chapman and 9th Streets. They're just all too common. Hoping we can do something about that. I don't have all the answers, sorry. Lastly and chiefly, I want to throw my 2 cents in on the idea of short-term rental properties in the city. I am in favor of them. I think if we can create and enforce ordinances that would allow a homeowner like myself to develop revenues by renting my home to the never-ending supply of tourists that come to Orange County, we should. It seems like a shame that the hotels have been able to negotiate terms with the city, but we cannot. We've bent over backwards to reward them for doing business in our city. Just this year, we've finally repaid our Section 108 loan for $13.5 million that was handed to them in 1996. That was money that was intended to go to our HUD, our low-income residents, and support projects for them. But instead, we found a way to bribe the restaurants and hotels to come here with it. Please understand, we can never do that again. $13.5 million handed out. Should have been HUD projects. Look at how many homeless we have and how many hungry people trying to get by on jobs at these hotels pay minimum wage or maybe $10 an hour. It's not really economic development. Those jobs would have been there anyways. We have to see the value of our city, recognize our values, our self-worth, and our position in this tourism industry. We're not Anaheim's ugly little sister. We're the city of youth and ambition. The hotels are here to stay. It's obviously, taken over and become a huge part of our tax dollars. And I'd like to see tax dollars go into our city from my house. I've got an 1800s Victorian. It'd make a really unique bed and breakfast. I'd love to see some money coming in from that myself. Now, I believe we should be able to enforce our existing laws regarding noise, parking, trash, all the complaints that you're going to hear tonight. There's no reason we can't enforce that and put that right to the homeowner. If we can't tax these or punish these out-of-town guests while they're temporarily here, stick it to the homeowner. Impose fees and fines to them. If they're not receptive to immediate phone calls, we should be able to set up some kind of dialogue and rules with these homeowners to make sure that they're not destroying the neighborhoods. On a closing note, I want to congratulate the Black Umbrella and the council members who supported them as we just reached our 3-year anniversary of saying we could have a tattoo shop on Main Street. With that, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, brother. Mike Hoken? Or Yoken? Hoken?
Hi, thank you for having me. First time doing this, so bear with me. I'm here to let you know that I hope the city does enforce the short-term rental laws or 30-day laws or whatever. I'm personally opposed. I understand some people want to make money on their residents, but I also feel that it can, if you have too many, now you're going to have schools that are going to be hurting with kids, local sports leagues. I have kids in the community and lived here for quite a while. My wife's been here her whole life, and I think it's bad for communities when you don't have neighborhoods anymore. You don't know who your neighbors are. Local businesses suffer because no one's going to the local supermarket or Apollo's or things that community members go to. Out-of-towners are going to here just for Disneyland. They're going to go to the restaurants and stores there in Anaheim primarily. And my opinion, I don't want different people in and out of my neighborhood every week where I don't know who belongs there, who doesn't. Why is there's a house cleaner every 3 days? And just not my preference to have them. So just wanted to come give my 2 cents that I'm against the short-term rentals being around. And so thank you.
Thank you, sir. Valerie. I don't know how to say your last name, sir. Van de Silver.
Good evening, Mayor Jones, Mayor Pro Tem Bowie, and council members and staff. My name is Valerie Van de Silver of Silver Realty Group and Val's Vacation Homes. I think you can hear me, but I'll bring this down. I'd love to speak with you briefly about short-term rentals and how they can fit into the fabric and the culture of your city and your neighborhoods. Val's Vacation Home manages about 35 vacation homes throughout Orange County, from 2-bedroom townhomes to 7-bedroom detached homes. Not a single one of them, not one single time, has ever received a violation or a complaint because of noise or parking or too many people in the home. Not one time. We are aware that common complaints include noise, trash, parking, and occupancy. Yet we are proof that short-term rentals and vacation homes can exist in neighborhoods without disrupting full-time residents. We have many neighbors of our homes who love having us there. We do this in a few ways. Some of those include, number one, we have a minimum 3-night stay. This discourages people from renting for a Friday or a Saturday night and coming for a party. We do not allow that. We limit the number of guests in each home. This includes infants and children of all ages. This discourages large groups. Number 3, we have an age limit. We don't allow people under our age limit to rent our homes, and we check their ID and check them in to verify that they don't violate the rules. Number 4, and most important to most neighbors, is we have quiet hours that are strictly enforced. Guests are not allowed outside at all, in the backyard, in the pool, in the barbecue, period, between 10 p.m. and 9 in the morning. They can't go outside to have a cup of tea. They can't go outside to have a glass of beer. They can't go outside to sit in the sun or talk between 10 p.m. and 9 in the morning. If they do, there's a violation, a fine up to $2,500. And to speaking to the one of the earlier speakers, that fine is to the guests as well as to the owners. 2 of those in a year, and we lose our permit. So we have absolutely a zero tolerance. We have signs in our homes at every exit warning guests that violations result in fines. We take immediate action. We evict people immediately with no refund. Fortunately, I have never had to do that. We have had people put in our reviews, don't come here if you want to have fun. And that's fine with us. We don't want them if they don't want to be in our homes and abide by the rules. To address an earlier comment about complaints between long-term rentals and short-term rentals, when you have a short-term rental, you can limit the number of people that are in the home. When you have a long-term rental, then there's no way to limit the number of people who are there. And long-term rentals have complaints and have parties also. And it would be interesting to make a comparison between the number of complaints on long-term rentals versus the number of complaints on short-term rentals. We take very seriously the fact that we are in a residential neighborhood and we strictly abide by a good neighbor policy. We would like to be a part in establishing guidelines, rules, and enforcement policies to get rid of the bad actors who are simply interested in collecting a check with no concern for your city or your neighborhoods. We believe the people who live here full-time fully have the right to live in peace and quiet enjoyment. We will help you in the collection of TOT taxes. We will make sure that you get the money that is due to you in the tax dollars from the short-term rentals. You can drive down most streets where our homes are located, and you will see that they are often the best maintained on the streets. Homes that were foreclosures or poorly maintained now are gems and have brought additional value to the neighborhoods. Yes, they are professionally cleaned every 3 to 5 days. They're professionally landscaped and they're manicured. Short-term rentals can be a value to your neighborhoods and a financial benefit to the city, and we would like to be a part of that solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Valerie. John V.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here to talk about STRs and how I feel about them. First off, a little bit about me. I've lived in this city for almost 30 years, 29 to be exact. So I grew up here and went to school here, Wakem, Alamitos, and Rancho. So I know this area like the back of my hand, and I frequent all the businesses here. I love Garden Grove, and that's why I'm still here. Now, I used to rent my house out to long-term tenants. And between every new tenant, I would inspect the property to find that the house was horrifically taken care of. My lawn dead, oil spills in the driveway, untrimmed bushes, roach-filled kitchens, you name it, I've seen it. And so I was fed up, and I decided to turn my property into an STR. Because of the nature of STRs, I have to consciously make an effort to maintain the property and to keep it in a tip-top condition all the time. And so I'm here to tell you that owners of STR are infinitely more concerned about their property than any renter can ever be. Okay? My lawn is now manicured, and I can proudly say that my property now adds beauty and is an asset to my block. I have never ever had any noise complaints. In fact, all the neighbors around me in my area has my phone number. I told them if anything ever happens, give me a call. I've never had a single call. In fact, they all pretty much love me. So, people who come are families, and they come here with their children. There's never been a crime reported, and they always come with under 2 or 3 cars. Everybody parks on the driveway and never on the street. So I let them know, just like Valerie said earlier, that I enforce very, very strict after-hour rules. My cutoff time is also 10 o'clock. And so they know not to exit the house and hang out in the front or anything like that after those hours. And I tell my neighbors, if you see them, please give me a call. I'm available all the time. So I also want you to know that this STR is my main source of income after I was laid off at work. And so I implore the council to consider an ordinance to allow it. There is a lot of tax dollars that you guys are currently missing out on. Just in 2015-2016 fiscal year of Newport Beach, when they decided to allow it, they made $2.7 million. Now, Garden Grove is, in my opinion, a lot better and bigger than Newport Beach, and we can definitely get a lot more. Well, that's all I have to say. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, John. Marwan. Hello, sir. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good.
Glad to be here. Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. My name is Marwan Youssef. I live at 11802 Ricky Avenue. I've been there for 27 years. I love my neighborhood. I'm here for the short-term rental. I am against that. I've heard what everybody said tonight. My main concern is safety. I have young kids, and the next door to my house is a short-term rental. We see new people every weekend, and all it takes is one time. And I'm really worried about that. We bought into a single-family residential neighborhood, and it's been very well. Love my neighbors, and then all of a sudden, every house is being sold now is becoming a short-term rental. To me, that's really different than if we wanted to go into a commercial area or a hotel area per se is different. But we bought into a single-family residential, and therefore I'd like to keep it like that. We do have another house nearby. It's a long-term rental, also nice people, no problems. And then you have this sense of neighborhood that we're losing now with this short-term rental. Every weekend you have a different neighbor. You don't know who they are, what they do, and all that. So definitely the neighborhood will suffer as a result. And then every sale gone in our neighborhood for the last probably couple of years, they all turn into short-term rental. So it's not like a homeowner who's gone on vacation for 2 months and is renting their house and coming back to it. No, they're just buying it for that intent, which really concerns me. In fact, I had to raise my fence 2 feet between my house and the next door neighbor, just to make sure that I keep that privacy between me and the short-term rental that came right next door. Again, to me, this is a zoning matter also. I mean, if it's a single-family residential, it should remain single-family residential. As far as paying taxes and generating taxes, to me, that might warrant a general plan amendment to look into that and see what does this really mean to the neighborhood, to the area, and to the value of the properties. Yes, for those who wants to buy property and turn them into short-term rental, yes, that might mean money to them. But nobody is going to walk into a neighborhood like that with young kids, knowing that the houses on both sides of you are short-term rental. There's definitely a concern, and I'd like to see maybe some research on some police reports on the crime statistics based on these, and what happened to the crime statistics since this short-term rental has came to the city. Again, my main concern is safety. And I'd like to keep our neighborhood the way it has been for 27 years. We love it, and my kids love it, and we have beautiful neighbors. Most of us have been there for over 20 years, and from my understanding, we are all against that. So thank you very much for your time.
Jeffrey Ziemba? Did I say that right?
Yes,
Cool.
thank you.
My name is Jeffrey Ziemba. Since I moved here in 1955 as a toddler, I've lived on Wilkin Way in northeast Garden Grove, less than a mile south of Disneyland. Recently, several houses in my neighborhood have been bought up by rich speculators and turned into often overcrowded short-term rentals. The most egregious example of such overcrowding that I know of happened in my neighborhood last July. From July 6th to 9th, 37 Kenyan visitors, who were adorable people, by the way, but 37 Kenyan visitors were housed in two houses, 11691 Leota Lane and 12171 Bluebell Avenue. Each measure only 1,300 square feet. I therefore ask you to vigorously enforce the laws against overcrowding and short-term rentals. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Leland.
Mr. Mayor, council members, first off, I want to wish everyone here, all the council, all the staff, everyone here, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. I'll be celebrating it in the Galapagos Islands, so I won't be around to wish you personally. But I got two things to say. For starters, let me mention to Mrs. Silver, you talked about the short-term rental you run. I think I have more fun in Air Force basic training. Can't go outdoors after 10. You discriminate. You don't. I don't understand it. That's not a short-term rental. That's like paying to be in prison. I'm sorry, folks. And Mr. B, it takes a lot of nerve to stand up here and admit you break the law and you want the city to legalize it. How about if I just go rob a bank, ask you to legalize that? I don't like short-term. It's true. You stand up here to admit you're breaking the law and you want us to make it legal. I don't understand that. But let me get back to the cogent points. Short-term rentals are illegal. On the street I live on, it's a cul-de-sac, there's 14 houses. One of them is a short-term rental, it's directly across the street. Two of them are long-term rentals, and we all get along, except for the short-term rental. And I'm happy to say that since I turned in a report to the city attorney, and they got notified they were being fined $1,000, haven't had anybody in there since. I hope it stays that way. I have security cameras on my home, which watch the street. We can also see that house. So for somebody to tell me, no, there was no short-term rentals there, wrong. I got the videos. I take notes. I don't like it. I've seen numerous people in and out. The Uber drivers have stopped. The pizza deliveries have stopped. The people coming knocking on my door trying to deliver food to my house has stopped. That's things that go on in a hotel. And this is not a hotel zone. And for people like Mrs. Silver to say, oh, we're going to make sure you get the money, yeah, right. It's a business. I bet you $5 you don't have a short-term rental next to you, and you don't want one next to you.
Sir, I do live next door to a short-term rental.
Well, I'm happy for you. But is it in Garden Grove?
It is not.
Then it may be legal. But in Garden Grove, it's not legal. And we want to keep it that way. I don't know what the city, staff has come up with. I bought a single-family home in a residential neighborhood. I want it to stay that way. The law of the city of Garden Grove says no rentals less than 30 days. I don't see any reason to change that. I don't think you want them next to you. I don't want them next to or across the street from me. And again, thank you. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Peace.
Thanks, sir. Chuck Van Wyn.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen, City Council and staff. My name is Chuk. I live in Garden Grove for more than 20 years. I raised my son here, and right in front of our city, it's Garden Grove High School. He now in college. Recently, I received the ticket for $1,000 fine. What is that? Short-term rental. My son tell me, "Hey, Dad, you're really bad." What? Just sit there, drive the speeding ticket, only $400. You got 1,000. Holy moly! $1,000 for the short-term rental. It really wake me up. Okay. I couldn't believe 1,000 is that bad. I digging in to find out how bad it is. Let me tell you how good, how bad it is. All of you here, maybe you think about yourself. No. You don't think about the other people. Let me prove to you all.
Sir?
To see that, okay,
So
we
just
have
point
proof.
of clarification, you're addressing us,
Okay.
not the audience. Thank you.
We prove here that LA County, everything up 30%, 20, 30% avenue. How about that? Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. If we follow it, we get the right track. We should not be behind other city. We got to facing it. Digging on it, we will find. What I find, I'll tell you today. For the revenue for the whole county, is in here. You can see it. I have proof, okay? And how about me, what I'm finding for myself? Let's see. For our neighborhood, a lot of people complain like, okay, it trash, noise. That is untrue. Have you ever gone out, go someplace, try to explore something, you packing up with neat and clean clothes, right? You're not packing up trash. You have no trash to throw, okay? 90% they are family, just like us. We go now to explore and to enjoy, to find out what good it is. What wrong with us? We can't accept them in. What wrong with us? We are friendly county, friendly city, especially in Garden Grove. I live in here for 20 years. Definitely I got to believe that it's true, okay? And let me tell you a few things more. Traffic, how about traffic? It's less than whatever for long-term rental. Because most of them driving their car only 1 or 2 cars, maximum 2 cars. In the case you have 6 persons, they drive van. And then most 40% of them driving what? They're using Uber. So traffic is not a problem. Curbside is no problem, okay? And how good it is? And how about noisy? Let me tell you, if you are really concerned about it, look deeply on Airbnb regulation, 9 to 7 or 8 or 9 o'clock. You're not allowed, if you make noise. The cost that they already give it to Airbnb, we charge on it. That's why they don't make noise. Everyone else said they make noise. No, we have allowed to make more money in the case they're making noise. So that's the reason. Don't ever say noise anymore. It's not true. Okay? Most of us, when we go somewhere, okay, with whole family, whole day long from 9 to 5 or 6 or 7 o'clock, try to explore the area, and what we have energy after that, go home and relax. We don't make noise. Because I know that after 9, 10, 1 hour, they turn off the lights. So what? They can have a second day good, fresh second day to go out. And let me see. How about energy? On my bill, I see that say half or 2/3 of the utility bill. You see that? Truly that. They go home, take shower, go to bed. That's it. They don't turn on the light. And they don't party like long term. My house will be long term for a long period of time. I know that. All have that. After they move out, few thousand to fixing up. But for Airbnb, for short-term rental, my house always tidy and clean and neat condition. I have to do it because otherwise,
Sir, please
you
wrap it up
comment
because your
about
time
what
is
I'm doing.
almost up.
So it's better. I'm
Thank you.
very
You have
close.
6 seconds.
Okay, just one more minute.
Everybody's on a timer, and
You know, like
Thank
Okay.
you.
All right, thank you very much. I have a lot to say, but it's good thing only. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Just for the record, everyone is capped on a 5-minute time. Is it 5? Yeah, 5-minute time limit, and we've got a little timer up here that shows the countdown and stuff, so that we're being fair across the board. Long Win.
Good evening. My name is Long Win. It's the first time I'm doing this, so kind of nervous. I would like to address about the short-term rentals. I grew up in Garden Grove. I went to Rancho Alamitos High School, and yes, I walk on Dale Street every day. Doesn't matter rain or shine. I still have to walk to school every single day. And I love my high school. Until now, I got some very good friends, high school friends. Came back to high school and become a teacher in high school. So I do come back and visit him in my high school all the times. Regarding to short-term rentals, all the point that everybody else made, the good and the bad, myself, I actually also imposed my rules of quiet times at 9 o'clock. I do have my cameras, the cameras in the house, and not in the house, outside. And I communicate with my guests very clearly that please go inside the house if I see them outside after 10 o'clock. And the communication is great. We never had any issue. I also communicate with my neighbors and always on top of things that if they have any issue, please call me. And we never had any issue so far. And because of the strict restrictions that I had to impose for my properties. And when I bought the properties, the condition is extremely bad. We save money and we do everything ourselves. At nighttime, after work, I have to come over to fix up a lot of things because we didn't have money to hire contractors. So we turned the property from really, really bad conditions into a very good conditions. And I just see that we can bring the value up for the community, for the properties. And yes, we do pay tax on all those. A lot of noise complaint, we don't have those. We used to have other long-term rentals, and every time that they move out, a lot of rats, it does happen. The living condition is bad, even though I did rent it out to housings. And my knowledge is housing has to come in and inspect it once a year, and they give us a list of what we have to fix. Yes, we come in, we also fix, but every time that I have a tenant move out, the living condition in the house is not so great. So it costs us more money to do evictions, and we have to spend more money to fix it. So that's all I have to say for now. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, we have Martin Lopez and then followed by Gloria Bram thereafter.
Good evening, Mayor Jones and honorable City Council members. This is my colleague and friend, Carmen Aragon, who lives in Garden Grove, longtime resident. How many years? 21 years, and I live in Anaheim, actually. But I'm a former resident of Garden Grove to the fact that I still come to worship God at the St. Columban Catholic Church, because I love it. So I actually been somehow, and I only live like a few steps from Garden Grove in Anaheim, in Orangewood and West. So I guess you are all familiar with sort of the big mess that we are battling in Anaheim against short-term rentals. I really do advise that the city of Garden Grove do not get themselves into this big mess where the Anaheim Rental Alliance and Airbnb file a lawsuit against the city of Anaheim to the extent that they have to threaten them, and now they're going to be in existence through a hardship affidavit for God knows how long, probably 2021. So in Sherwood Village, which is where I live, we're stuck with them for, I don't know, we want to get them out of there. At some point, we have 57 units in a 220 townhome complex, 57 units, to the extent that we're going to court tomorrow to trying to amend our CCNRs, because just to see how these guys, Airbnb and short-term rentals, come promising you everything in the world, and then the minute you start like imposing or enforcing regulations to them, then they start filing lawsuits and going against you. So please, whatever you do, do not get the city of Garden Grove into that mess. So I want to also say, how these STRs truly affect our schools, our jobs, our churches, the complexity of our neighborhoods, the fabric of our own neighborhoods, getting to know your neighbor, getting to have these people that you know. I mean, if they want to meet people from the world, travel around the world, but don't bring me, I don't want to meet strangers in my neighborhood. I expect to see the same people that I see every week, and I want to get up at 5 a.m. to go to work and having a nice, restful night before. So too much of what exists on Airbnb and other platforms are not true home sharing. We know that. It is commercialized hotels run by large companies that take housing off the market and cost hotel workers jobs. In big cities, between 5 to 10 housing units are lost every day to these commercial operations. And the cost and increased rent for the rest of the city residents can run in the thousands of dollars a year per person, even according to Airbnb estimates. Although STRs are currently prohibited in Garden Grove, there are ways to restrain this language through an ordinance, which has been done in cities like San Francisco, New York, Santa Monica, and most recently in Toronto. LA is expected to follow suit shortly, probably follow through the news. This ordinance includes strong language around enforcement, such as requirements of the platform to share the burden of enforcement, disclose listers to the city, and prohibit subcontracting. I mean, how much do they pay these folks? Minimum wage? Do they give them any benefits? We don't know. Who's regulating that? Santa Monica and San Francisco have both dramatically cut their listings to manageable numbers by more than 50% in each case. With these policies, true hosts make more money, and companies are forced to put units back on the housing market where it belongs. So I urge you tonight to continue prohibiting short-term rentals in Garden Grove. You guys have seen what has been going on in Anaheim. Don't get yourselves into that big mess. Continue representing the people that voted for you, the residents, the people that I worship with, a lot of Anaheim residents, a lot of friends. Carmen and her family, who has lived here for 21 years, in Garden Grove, only half a block from where I live. So that's all I have to say tonight. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, sir. Gloria Bram, followed by Pam Donaldson.
Good evening, Mayor Jones, council people. I didn't expect to be here tonight, but as I left my house to go pick up a prescription at Walgreens, I found a stream running in front of my apartment building, about 18 inches wide, running water, coming from the east to the west on Acacia Parkway. Where's that water coming from? There's been no rain. I couldn't get across. I am 72 years old. I've had 2 knee replacements. I've got a bad hip. I had to go back upstairs and get my cane and figure a way to get, the only place I could cross was 200 feet down at the corner or right in front of the storm drain. Now, it wasn't standing water, which we had a problem with a couple of weeks ago because the drains needed clearing. This is running water. Where is it coming from? All I know is we cannot afford to waste what water we have. And to see that 3-4 times a week, it is very upsetting and concerning. And I really think that the city maintenance should be finding out where the heck that water is coming from and why it's there several days a week. My other problem has to do with the reason for signs saying no right turn on red. I'm very confused about the reasons for it. When I go to my son's house in West Garden Grove, I go down Lamson, I go down Stanford, I get to the First Street, Magnolia, First Main Street. There are two lanes heading, one is a left turn lane, the other is a straight or right turn lane, and there's no right turn on red. Now, the traffic coming from the south can be seen for several hundred yards. There is no school on the corner, there is no large activity, and I see absolutely no reason why people should not be allowed to make a right turn on red. Then you get down to Lamson and Brookhurst, if I'm thinking correctly, and there you have a street where you can't see the traffic coming from the left. So I understand the no right turn on red there. You go a little further down to Lamson and Dale, where the high school is, one of the high schools is, and here you have an area where there are students with an elementary street across the street. There are a lot of students there during the year, a lot of kids in the area, and they do not have a no right turn on red, where for the safety of the students, they should. So I have no idea what is the determination, but I think it should be codified so that you know why and where. And I sure as heck would love to see that no turn on red removed from Stafford and Magnolia. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Pam Donaldson, followed by Matthew Owens, friend of Rick Wang.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I have a couple of letters that some of my neighbors wrote that couldn't come because they're 85 years old, and they've been in the neighborhood since 1970. Some have been here 54 years, and they couldn't come. So I'm going to turn these letters over in. And I'm not going to take very long, but I wasn't going to speak, I was just going to turn the letters, but it sounds like all the ST owners are all perfect. Nobody has a problem. They're all going to bed at 9 o'clock, no noise, no outside on the pool, none of that's going on. But I seem to have passed out 200 flyers this last week, and not one person told me they liked their STRs next to them or across the street. They also said, that's one over there, and I think that one's going to be one because it just got bought out. But anyway, that's what I just wanted to say. And let's keep our neighborhood neighborhoods, not strangerhoods. Thank you.
Thank you. Matthew Owens, to be followed by Verlin Richens.
Guys, thank you guys very much. A little nervous today, first time I've talked to the government, so appreciate it. So my name is Matthew Owens. I'm a California licensed CPA and a Garden Grove resident. I moved here a little bit over 5 years ago with my son and my wife. And we have a rental property that we have as a short-term and long-term rental where we rent it out over 30 days as well. But having the ability to do this really does support us and our family and our ability to be able to cover the mortgage and high asset prices and things like that have occurred here throughout Southern California. And a lot of the short-term residents, hundreds of them, actually have the same strategy to support themselves. Now, my goal here today is to introduce the idea of sensible regulation for short-term rentals in the city of Garden Grove that helps reduce the nuisances that a lot of these kind people are actually bringing up that is a valid concern. And at the same time, increase the city's tax revenue and increase the ability of homeowners to keep their rights as homeowners and use it in quiet enjoyment the way they should be able to use it. Before making my property available for a short-term rental or long-term rental, I actually spent a substantial amount of time researching the online code enforcement and trying to call city planning and the different departments to try to determine if I could actually do that. And many of the actual people that I talked with weren't sure because it wasn't actually properly addressed on the site. Now, we've seen recently, I believe it was in October, there was an ordinance that specifically addressed the issue that talked about how, now there's a $1,000 fine per occurrence per day, in addition to a misdemeanor and possible jail time for being able to rent your property less than 30 days. Which really affects hundreds of families like this throughout the Garden Grove market. And in reality, the code seemed to be relating short-term rentals to hotels. And in reality, they're a lot different than hotels because you have one resident that's staying at the property at a time, or a family, just like a normal rental property over 30 days. While hotels specifically have tons of residents, which comes to other additional fire safety issues and things like that can occur that would cause additional regulation and city burden from that aspect of things. So much more liability from a hotel standpoint than a short-term rental standpoint, especially when you're reviewing the property on a weekly basis to make sure there's no damage, keeping the property up and things like that as well. Some of the main issues that were brought up, obviously, were the noise violations with parties and short-term rentals. Big problem. That's the biggest issue that we're hearing today, right? The trash, the excess noise, the parties. There's got to be a solution to those specific problems. And, these types of violations can be easily controlled and regulated through a series of rules associated with short-term rentals specifically. Many other cities have adopted a 3-night stay minimum that stops many of these partiers from coming to these properties and booking one night to party or something along those lines. We, for example, also go through and put noise-aware systems in our property that notify us if there's loud noises. We have video doorbells so we can see how many people are coming and going. We're monitoring the trash. We review the property every single week to make sure there's no damages or any issues. We also have reached out to all of our neighbors to talk with them and give them my personal business cards to tell us if there's any issues that occur or any items that occur so that we can fine our residents, because it's strictly in the rules. And in many of the online platforms, if they break a rule, you can automatically charge them for that aspect of things. So I really personally think that there should be fines in place and escalating fines when there are problems in the community, just like a lot of these fine people are actually saying up here. We don't have the partiers. We really don't. We have the 3-night minimum rule, which stopped that type of issue. We also, most of our guests stay for 5+ nights per stay, at least, if not sometimes 30 days for out of state people or different people from different countries that are coming here for schools or medical procedures that are happening at nearby hospitals and things like that. So it's not just the vacationer that's coming to these different areas. So it's families that come here afterwards. And there's a very small percentage of irresponsible landlords that should be fined. And with enough fines and things like that, there's definitely issues that need to come up. So you have to actually go find them, and it becomes non-profitable. Now, the biggest thing that I want to hit is that AirDNA is a data source that specifically goes through and actually makes short-term rentals, actually gives you all the data. And based on the numbers here in Garden Grove, you're giving up over $3.2 million in tax revenue, which is over 75% of the company budget, or of the city budget. So thank you guys very much. I appreciate it. And San Diego is actually
I'll
great
handle it.
studies
I'll
on
handle
it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Verlin Richens, followed by Kathleen Hurd.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Verlin Richens. I manage a property on Coleman Place. Linda Schaubetter is the owner. We've been doing this since 2009. I have, about 5 years ago, we received a letter saying that we were lowering the quality of the neighborhood in the city by doing short-term rentals. And I was not happy about that because, in fact, I provided before and after pictures of what the property looked like before we were doing this, and included a picture of a neighbor's house just a few doors away. It was a long-term renter, a very trashy dump. We've significantly improved this property, improved the neighborhood, raised the value of the neighbors. I'm very careful to make sure the neighbors are my good friends. I do not want them to be upset with us. Absolutely not. Something I do to prevent partiers. In summer, I have a 1-week minimum, and during the rest of the year, it's a 3-night minimum. I do not want partiers there. Too much damage, too much liability. The city, when we turned in these pictures to the city at that point, at that time, let me back up. In November, Linda and I met with, Linda is like my non-blood cousin, a family member. We met with Manager Stiles, the city attorney, Allison Wilson, and some other members from the city. And our concern was, we've been doing this since 2009, and you knew that. 5 years ago, we had this issue, and at that time, the city looked at those pictures and said, okay, we're not going to enforce any ban. You're good to go. And in fact, we got an award from the city for a most improved, beautiful home. And if you're going to now throw on this ban, okay, you'll make your decision, but please, we're just asking, let us continue the reservations we have through March, through the end of March, without, the threat of being charged $1,000 a day. Whatever the city decides will be what the city decides, but we're asking at least give us some time in the future to be able to transition from short-term to long-term to be fully compliant with what the city would like to do. I don't have anything further to say about it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Kathleen Hurd.
Good evening. I live off of Critty Way, near the corner of Chapman and 9th, so I'm right in the heart of the STR's business. The definition of community, according to Webster, is a unified body of individuals or people with common interests living in a particular area. The definition of neighborhood is a geographically local community within a larger city, town, suburb, or rural area. Neighborhoods are often social communities with considerable face-to-face interaction among members. When you take the neighbor out of neighborhood, you lose the sense of community that makes a city the best it can be. A place where people look out for one another. A place where people stay for protection, pride, and interaction with one another. If you truly believe in community, then this decision is not hard. Commercialism or commerce should not be in the neighborhood. I don't want to live next to a commercial property. Neighborhoods are not about profit. Neighborhoods are about providing a place for people to live. Areas for commerce are set aside from neighborhoods. Let those that want to profit move to a commercial area or a vacant lot or an empty retail building. Oops, that might compete with hotels. They might have something to say about that. Anaheim schools have seen declining enrollment because of STRs. Declining enrollment causes issues with neighborhoods and where people want to live. There's a reason the Anaheim communities are up in arms. I don't work to live next to a hotel. Thank you.
Thank you. Bob Donaldson next, followed by Nicholas Dibbs.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. I'd like to comment on the short-term rental. They're a major problem. And first off, before I get people said they called the city and they said the city said they were legal. That I have called to the city 3 or 4 times because I kept wanting to reinforce that they were not allowed in the city of Garden Grove. And that has always been the answer was given to me. The trouble, and the reason I kept calling the city back is because these people just kept bringing up STRs all on their own. And every single person out here today, we should fine them all $1,000 because they are violating the law and they admitted it. You know. The operators, and I call them operators and owners, do not care about neighbors or the law. The City of Garden Grove has clearly stated its position, and it's listed on the webpage, very clear. I would recommend every owner in Garden Grove download the affidavit and file that every single time a short-term rental shows up on any piece of property in Garden Grove. These affidavits are very important. All you really need to know is short-term rental is to show them the date, and you can see the way these cars turn over. Arizona, Utah, you know, those Arizona, Utah seems to be the most common. Unfortunately, owners and realtors are telling short-term rentals to lie and say the areas are being rented for 30 days or more. I just reviewed this house. The lady was talking about the $1 million house down in District 2. And I went in there and I was talking, I said to the real estate guy, I said, short-term rentals are banned or not legal in Garden Grove. He says, well, we just tell them to say you're renting the property for 30 days. And here's a house that has all these bedrooms. They're big bedrooms because they got 2 queen-size beds in like 4 or 5 of the bedrooms, and they have 2 kitchens, 6 washers and dryers over there. I mean, they're expecting a large group. Short-term rentals are against city codes. They're not good for our neighborhoods. They reduce homes that people in Garden Grove can rent. They negatively impact potential new owners because who in their right mind, if you wanted to sell your house and you had an STR and you have to disclose that, you can't lie to them, say, well, I got this STR, and who in their right mind is going to buy a house nowadays in front of an STR or next to an STR? They make it harder and more difficult for you to sell homes. So that's why they keep saying, well, that's why all these new homes keep going to these STRs, because they just keep expanding. Like over on Ricky, we were talking to a gentleman. He says, well, I had one like 6 months or 8 months ago. And then I had 2, and then there's 3, there's 4. And Ricky is, all that is Garden Grove. You know, and they just keep popping up. They negatively impact our schools, hotel occupancy. They don't pay any TLT taxes. And I don't want you to make an ordinance saying they should have a TLT tax, because that's what Anaheim did. And Anaheim we've been in a 3-year battle with them, and it's going to go on for another 3 or 4 years. And like Martin Lopez said, they keep wanting everything that you do, they get your teeth in, they're going to file suit. And they're just a cancer to our neighborhood. You can't have a neighborhood watch. They increase traffic, parking. They just drop crap all over the street. Short-term rentals, like I say, increase litter because they throw all their fast food stuff just right inside the curb. They don't benefit our neighborhoods. Last but not least, short-term rentals, like I say, well, I said that was the last one. I'll make a couple other comments. They just violate the law, and we should. Recently, Paris and London have banned them. Anaheim has banned them, but like I say, it's a big battle, and they're spending millions fighting because these guys sue on everything. And they say, oh, we don't violate the law. Well, in Anaheim, they've done adult filming in these places, because these people don't know who the hell they're renting to. We had one over in Sherwood Village. They had young ladies, they had prostitution and drugs going on. And this is somewhat recently, within like the last 4 months over there. Drug use, you see it a lot, especially when you have a lot of these people come for conventions, because they act like everybody goes to Disneyland. Well, these people also go to the convention center, and they get over there and they party, and you see the drug use. So I hope the city stays with it is and fine these guys $1,000 every day, and everyone that violated the law today should be fined $1,000. Thank you.
Nick Dibbs, followed by Terry Alford.
Mayor Jones, Mayor Pro Tem Bowie, members of the council, my name is Nicholas Dibbs. I've lived for over 43 years in Garden Park and West Garden Grove. Last week I had the unfortunate experience of being at home when my neighbor's home was broken into. And when I pulled out of the driveway to go run an errand, I saw a car, a black Charger, parked on the street. Unfortunately, my neighbor drives a black Charger, so I didn't think about it, that there was anything wrong. But it turns out that the criminal also drives a black Charger, broke into the house. We don't, where I live is near, on Marietta Avenue, near Tiffany and Valley View, where you can get on either the 22 or 405 freeways and be gone. So I've thought about this, and perhaps Chris Beard and others on the council have been thinking about it as well. We need some, I'd like the council to ask staff to please look into having cameras in our key arteries, particularly in and out of major, out of the track areas, so that we're not dependent on neighbors' cameras, which is fine if neighbors have cameras on their homes. But if we had a camera at Tiffany and Valley View, another one at Cerulean and Valley View, another one at Lamson and Valley View, Chapman and Valley View, and so on, to not only on the west side, but on Central and East Garden Grove, so that we have in place an infrastructure of cameras to assist our law enforcement investigators, so when crimes go on, they can track the cars and see who's coming and who's going. So this may have been thought of or proposed in the past, I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there. My neighbor, by the way, has an alarm system, but that doesn't seem to stop some of the criminals. They just go in, and by the time the police get there, they're gone. So I think cameras would really assist, and if we could maybe even take part of the city and try it out and see how it goes. So if the police chief and the council members and the staff can kind of look at this, other cities, I believe, are using cameras. Why don't we do this? Because we have the Garden Grove Freeway running through Garden Grove, and all the criminals have to do is do their little heist, and then they're gone. So I think the cameras would really be a big help. That's on that issue. Now let's move on to something more pleasant. John Manchances, and I always have trouble saying his last name. How do you say it, John Manchances? Manchances. Was recognized today. And I remember about 2 years ago, a year and a half, 2 years ago, when I was speaking with Jeremy Harris of the Community Foundation, and then he put me in touch with Stacy Margolin, who has passed away, God rest her soul. And following the Food for Thought luncheon for the Garden Grove Unified School District students that the city was putting on at that time, I asked the question, what happened to Youth and Government Day? And as some of you already know, the council was kind enough, and the mayor and the council were kind enough to back the staff and to look into this. So after 25 years, the city of Garden Grove did the Youth and Government Day program for about 25 years until the earlier mid-90s. And I was one of the participants as a senior and an honors graduate at Pacifica High School. And so I asked that it be brought back. And Stacy Margolin and Jeremy Harris and John Manchances and others in that department, including the lady that just retired, if you remind me of her name, Kim Hoya, how can I forget her? Anyway, did that. So we're going to have the Youth and Government Day, and I just want to thank John and his staff and everybody involved in that. It'll be taking place around the 15th of February. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hey, Terry. How you doing, buddy? We grew up and went to school together. I haven't seen you in years.
Long time, long time. Good evening. Thank you very much for taking the time to speak about short-term rentals here. I'm a long-term resident of Garden Grove, with a brief exception of a few years when I actually lived in Anaheim. I've been a resident here since I was 10 years old. Went to Gilbert Elementary, went to Alamedas Junior High, Rancho Alamedas High School, and have enjoyed living here for that length of time. I'm pleased to be able to tell people that I live in Garden Grove. I actually have a very unique situation where I live in Garden Grove and I work for the city of Anaheim. And so I've certainly been in tune with the difficulties that Anaheim has had regarding short-term rentals. The rollout and the subsequent freeze in Anaheim program has been challenging at best. I think in Garden Grove we can learn from some of the mistakes that were made in Anaheim and implement an STR program that will be beneficial to both the neighbors as well as the owner-operators. For the most part, the major complaints from neighbors to STRs has been parking, trash, and noise. The City of Anaheim ordinance addresses these concerns. However, I'm not sure that the ordinance provides an expeditious manner in which to address these issues. While I fully agree that everybody is entitled to due process, I believe that the way in which the Anaheim ordinance is crafted allows for far too much time to comply and or too little of a penalty should there be violations. It's important to hold owners and operators accountable, rewarding responsible operators and penalizing those who do not follow the guidelines. I believe that by working together with the owners, there can be a mutually beneficial outcome. I'd love to see a formal implementation of the STR program as a means to which the City of Garden Grove could allow these operations and capture some tax revenue. It seems to me that a well-thought-out and implemented program that includes swift and possibly harsh penalties for enforcement provisions with a possible revocation of such a license and the collection of the appropriate TOT could prove to be very beneficial for city residents. Thank you very much.
Siriboto, followed by Tila Kosa.
Good evening. My name is Siriboto Aremba. I've got a lot of respect for everyone here because I know this is going to be a big decision for you guys, and I'm glad I'm not the one making it. I've heard both sides of the STRs. I'm not an STR owner, and I understand that there's a lot of conflicts, pros and cons both. I used to work for a company that ran STRs, and they have a lot of them in Anaheim. And so I understand the neighbors' concerns. And I used to meet, I don't work with them anymore, but I used to meet with a lot of the neighbors and go over their concerns they had. Loud music, parking, trash, and they were never for our houses. And I thought it was funny how someone stated, oh, everyone here there are never problems with their STRs. And that's probably true because the people here actually care. The people here are the responsible owners. Like I said, I'm not an owner, but I used to work for some very good owners, and I have a lot of respect for them. I live here in Garden Grove. Me and my wife, we're expecting a child now, so thank you. We're excited. But like the gentleman before me said, I love this town. I was not born here. I was not raised here. I've been here about 5 years. But I do love this town. It's got a nice small town feel. And I know that some STRs, people say, oh, you can't have a small town feel. But I became more acquainted with those neighbors in Anaheim by working with the STRs than I would have ever. I would have never known any of those people. Whenever they had a problem, I came over and helped them. There's a lot of elderly people. I helped take their mail to them. I helped take their trash cans in. Because with the STRs, we get fined $1,000 if we leave a trash can out. And I would appreciate that money to go to the schools because I've looked around the schools that my kid will eventually be going to, and they don't have very good ratings. So if we could pay for teachers better or whatever to get these schools' ratings up, and I don't know, maybe some more parking in places. I live in the apartments over there, and my truck got towed the other day. I parked in the red for a minute, and I went in and had a sandwich. I came out, my truck was gone. But there was no parking. I mean, and that's not short-term rentals. That's just regular long-term rentals because everyone owns 5 cars. With short-term rentals, we don't have that problem. But I love this town. I love this city. Whatever you guys decide is obviously that's what it's going to be, and the people in this room are obviously going to live by it and abide by it. But I think this talk is a good one to have, And I think if people are not willing to respect the residents here, including me, my family, and everyone else, all the good citizens in this room, they should be banned from that owner if they're not going to be responsible and they can't, they can't take care of the people and run it like a Navy boot camp or whatever he said, Air Force. It should be run that way because people need to come in and know that this is our community. This is our town. And if they're not going to abide by the rules, they're not welcome here. And again, I just appreciate everything that's been said, both pros and cons, because it helps us understand and have a good community relationship, and to be able to communicate and know what we can really do to solve the problem. And if they're banned, and I think, like he said, if there's somebody here who owns them, they should be fined $1,000. It's against the law. I work in law enforcement, and you break the law, that's what it is. My truck got towed. I broke the law. That's how it is. But and you just got to understand that. So I totally agree with that. Enforce the law. That's what it is. You know the consequences. You do it. But if we're able to have a good conversation and work it out, I think that'd be good too. So thank you and Merry Christmas, everybody.
Thank you, bud. Attila Koza, and then followed by Elizabeth Rareba. I got that.
Distinguished council members, I'm here to talk about the short-term rentals. Just want to let you know, I've been here in Garden Grove, lived here for over 16 years, and I happen to have a bad luck with one of these short-term rental people that they moved next to me, and our life has been devastated ever since. It's been very, very, very tough in the last 3 years. Most of the time, they're up until 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Noise, swimming pool, drinking, laughing, cussing, swearing, playing rap music, obscene rap music, and I just can't take it anymore. I just can't take it anymore. I called the police, and sometimes they show up, sometimes they got other emergencies, and they told me they get thousands of complaints about these situations, and I went through many venues, such as hiring a lawyer. I hired a lawyer, and we sent out letters to the property owners, and they acknowledged it. They sold the house, and they sold it to another investor. It's just been going in circles and circles. So there's been many cities around us that they banned short-term rental. On the short-term rental, there is nobody to enforce the curfew. There's no security guard like at hotels or motels or resorts. Vacation rental people, they come out, they don't care about the neighbors. They're there to have fun, and I don't blame them. I blame the property owners, and I blame that they are allowed to harm neighborhoods in such ways. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Elizabeth? And this is the last card I have, by the way.
Lucky me. Good evening.
But not least.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Elizabeth Raremba, and I am a resident of Garden Grove, and I have been a homeowner for 7 years here. I'm here tonight to show support for short-term rentals for the City of Garden Grove. As stated in our city's 2017-18 and 2018-19 fiscal year budget, regarding our deficit, it says the City Council constituted a subcommittee to review city finances, including assessment of internal service funding levels, service needs and requirements, and evaluation of new revenue opportunities. I ask that the City Council and this subcommittee that's been formed consider and evaluate the revenue opportunities that short-term rentals could bring to the city. I know it's been stated here, other cities that have brought in millions of dollars of revenue. Just thinking about these 78 properties that were cited, I believe, for the month of November, rather than $1,000 in fines, think of the high percentage of the transient occupancy tax that could be put on these and many more properties throughout the city. Now, I do believe, though, that it has to be watched over and maintained. I think that, from what I understand with the city of Anaheim, things grew very quickly, and I'm sure they have for Garden Grove also. But once the city of Anaheim started issuing permits for those short-term vacation rentals, they didn't pay attention to and monitor the location of those rentals, which became the problem for a lot of residents, where they're like, well, now I have 16 houses on my street, and 10 of them are short-term rentals. So I think there has to be some sort of a management of the location of those properties and some sort of a limit on how many you can have within a certain radius or area. But I do believe that with proper oversight and responsibility, that short-term rentals can exist in our community and still preserve and maintain a clean, well-kept neighborhoods, and it will preserve and enhance the quality of myself and my fellow residents. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so that concludes our oral communications. We just had 24 cards at about 5 minutes each. That's almost 2 hours worth of oral communications we just heard. I want to thank everyone for being very adult-like and being very professional and courteous with each other. We heard people speaking on both sides of the short-term rentals issue, and we managed to keep it very orderly, and I just want to thank everyone for that and applaud everyone for that. We're going to take about a 5-minute break, and then we'll resume, and we're actually going to bring that item forward for discussion next.
I'll just call it out. Item 8A is a discussion of code enforcement report related to short-term rental properties as requested by City Council. And Ms. Wilson is here to give the report, and she also has a PowerPoint presentation.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. At the request of council, I have prepared a PowerPoint presentation that has an overview of short-term rentals in the city of Garden Grove and also the enforcement initiatives that the code enforcement officers are taking to enforce our codes. I'd like to start off with the definition of short-term rentals. The City of Garden Grove Land Use Code outlines permitted uses in all zones, but in this case we're talking about permitted uses in residential zones. Short-term or vacation rentals are the equivalent of hotels or motels, which are defined as places rented to transients for a term of less than 30 consecutive days. Our zoning code only allows hotels or motels in commercial zones and with a conditional use permit. Renting out a residence in the city's residential zones for less than 30 days is punishable as a misdemeanor, and fines can be imposed up to $1,000 per day per violation, or 6 months in jail, or both. And each day that a violation exists constitutes a separate offense and can result in these penalties for each violation. I'd like to now just sort of move into our enforcement process. We started with an education component, and in October we sent out in excess of 3,500 letters, and these letters were sent to all property owners who hold a business operating tax certificate for residential rental properties. Here's a copy of the letter. I know it's kind of hard to read, but essentially the letter makes the property owners aware of the zoning code and that any rental agreements for residential property need to be executed in excess of 30 days. And it also outlines any penalties for violation of the code. In addition to this, we updated our city's website. We put information about short-term rentals on the code enforcement webpage, and there's the link to the information. And here's a screenshot of the information that's contained about short-term rentals in the residential zones. We also added what we're calling an affidavit for vacation or short-term rental citation. And here's a copy of the affidavit. This affidavit appears on the code enforcement webpage. It allows any neighbors to download this and complete it. It's a mechanism for the neighbors to transmit information to our code enforcement team about suspected short-term rentals in their neighborhood. It allows for them to provide as much detail and information to support their claim that a short-term rental is operating in their neighborhood. Once it's received by our office, our code enforcement officers will follow up and perhaps work in conjunction with the city attorney's office to determine if this affidavit provides enough information for us to move forward with some sort of enforcement initiatives. Anyone who completes this affidavit is also signing it under penalty of perjury, that everything that they have contained in here is true and correct, and they are also signing that they promise that they will appear at any appeal hearing if a citation is issued and the recipient of that citation wishes to appeal that citation. So once we started our investigation, we compiled a list of 53 suspected short-term rental properties. Of the 53, we were able to confirm 35 as short-term rentals. During the month of November, we issued a total of 68 administrative citations to the property owners who were operating short-term rentals on their property. As of the end of November, 22 of those short-term rentals appear to no longer be operating. And as of November 30th, 6 of the recipients of those administrative citations have requested an appeal hearing for the citation, and those appeals have been scheduled for December 21st. Here's a map that represents the location of the short-term rentals that we have identified. And then I wanted to just do a brief overview of what some of our neighboring cities are doing as it relates to short-term rentals. We've heard a lot about the city of Anaheim. In brief, in 2014, the city of Anaheim approved an ordinance allowing short-term rentals, but they were required to register and obtain a permit with the city. And then in 2016, in response to opposition from the neighbors, a new ordinance was adopted prohibiting short-term rentals and imposing an 18-month phase-out period for the existing formerly permitted short-term rentals. February 11th, 2018 is the last day for short-term rentals to legally operate in the city of Anaheim unless the operator has applied for and approved a hardship waiver. And then those waivers are looked at a case-by-case basis. The city of Buena Park does not allow short-term rentals. The city of Newport Beach does permit short-term rentals. A permit is required along with a business license, and the operators must pay a 10% transient occupancy tax. And in the city of Huntington Beach, short-term rentals are not permitted. And that concludes my overview and my presentation, but myself and City Attorney Omar Sandoval are available to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Allison.
You have a question?
Yes.
Okay.
I understand residents who, property owner, not resident, property owner who own property in Garden Grove and rent out their property as long-term. I said again, long-term, not short-term, long-term. they have to obtain a business license or permit from the city. For those who rent it out as short-term rental, because the city does not allow it, it's not legal to rent short-term rental in Garden Grove. So in other words, they never register, they do not have a business license to operate in Garden Grove. Is that correct?
Sometimes they don't disclose that they're short-term rentals, and they just simply say it's rental property. It's not illegal to rent for long-term. That's a residential use of property. So they just simply don't disclose that it's for short-term rentals.
Is this possible for a property owners to not register as long-term rental and still yet rent it out as short-term rental? Is it possible? Let's say someone have a property in Garden Grove. They could pretend that they live in that property and then they rent it out as short-term. Is that possible?
Yes, it's also possible that they live in the house and they rent a room in the house for short-term rental as well.
So in November, when the city informed those property owners that register with the city that they rent out their property, that those should not rent it out as short-term if they did it. If they did not do it, then they have no need to be concerned. Now, those property owners who register with the city, we send out a letter to inform them that short-term rental is not allowed and it's not legal in Garden Grove. And we did send that out in early November or late October. Is that correct?
Those letters went out on October 18th.
October 18th. Because I received some phone call from people complaining that they did not receive it. And I said, well, I don't know. All I know is the city did send out letters, and I got numerous phone calls from others who was misunderstood the statement and thought that they was fined $1,000, but they were not. Because they did not rent it out short term. They just automatically received that notification telling them that if they rent it out short term, they should stop. And if they have never rented out short term, then they have no need to worry about. So I know people do receive it. I just want to make sure that for those who might not receive it, perhaps, maybe, I don't know, but maybe because they did not register with our city, so they never receive a letter. Just want to confirm that. Thank you.
Any other questions of staff?
Some comments? Or is it not time for that yet?
Well, let's start if there's any other sort of clarification questions or questions about the report or any of that kind of stuff, and we may be ready to roll into comments, but just for point of order.
Yes, I wonder if the attorney would be able to, on the affidavit and the per use, per day, let's say it's a 3-night rental and the next door neighbor files a complaint, that would be a $1,000 fine for the 3 days, or
It's $3,000.
$3,000, so it can be per day. Okay.
So we can issue 3 separate citations.
That's what I wanted to clarify. Thank you.
In regards to the other cities that have bans in place, what is the monetary amount of their fines? Is it higher than ours?
There are 2 different ways that cities have authority to enforce their municipal codes. One is the administrative citation, which is the program we are implementing in this case, but the other level is criminal prosecution as a misdemeanor. And my understanding is the cities leave open the ability to enforce either way. So if the administrative citation, which is civil in nature, is not, there's no jail time involved, if that doesn't work because either they pay their fines and they figure cost of doing business, eventually if we're not getting compliance, then I have authority under the code to file a misdemeanor complaint and basically start a criminal process. My understanding is that cities, again, they either do either one,
We just decided to start with the administrative citation, civil enforcement at this time.
Any other questions of staff? Like clarification kind of questions before we get into discussion stuff. Okay, so let me kind of frame this just for a start to say this is just a discussion item. It's just an informational item. There's no sort of actionable item within this on our agenda tonight. So it's just to kind of gather information, have a discussion. We can direct staff certainly as appropriate, but there's nothing specifically listed. I just want to point out, or maybe start a quick dialogue and just say, obviously I think we all are very conscientious about our residents and just impacts on our residents, and we can all sort of put ourselves in the shoes of people that have bad actors operating short-term rentals next to them and the impacts of that. Is it possible that these things could be allowed if properly regulated without creating those type of nuisances? I don't know, maybe, maybe not. We're living in a interesting transitional period in the world right now. I remember I was at a meeting not too long ago and they talked about how the largest transportation provider in the world doesn't own any vehicles, right? Uber and Lyft and these kind of things. And the largest hospitality company in the world doesn't own any real estate. And so we're in this sort of weird morphing into technology and like a shared economy. And some of those things to me are exciting and interesting and sort of forward thinking in that regard. I don't know how that plays into this, and I'm not advocating for anything either way. I think we need to be very conscientious, but I would just say before we race to say we should put everybody in jail that does this, or before we race to say, oh, we should just allow it or something, I mean, I think we should be deliberate and conscientious about approaching this from all angles. We had, I didn't pay attention to this, but Maria pointed this out, that the number of fors and against in the cards that we had were almost even. So for whatever that's worth. And this is just a small sort of subset of representation of people that cared enough to come out either for or against, right? So presumably the kind of good actors within the operators crowd and the people who are most negatively affected and annoyed by these things from the resident crowd. So this is just a small sampling. I think we need to think this through and we need to approach it conscientiously, and I don't know where we're going, but I just wanted to frame that and then hear whatever comments you guys have to say. Please.
Well, first of all, I want to extend my appreciation to staff for the report. I think it was well done, and I hope that it enlightened or gave some more information to the residents in terms of where we stand as a city in terms of short-term rentals. Obviously, a ban is in place, and it is being enforced, and hopefully will continue to be enforced in greater fashion as we move forward. I want to thank the residents, especially in District 5, that have reached out to me. I appreciate your passion and just your ability and desire to be a part of your neighborhood. You're taking the onus on yourself, and you're coming to council, you're calling me, and you're talking about an issue that is greatly affecting your neighborhood and your community. So for that, I can understand that, and I do hear you. Going forward, since I think there is an element of ownership in this currently, the affidavit is there. I recommend for those of you that see this going on in your neighborhood, and if it's a problem, to please utilize that form and utilize what's available to you currently within the means of staff and what we have provided for you. So I think it's important. And going forward, I'm here to listen to your concerns and complaints as I have been. Please, let's continue to dialogue. I think this is an issue that's obviously a hot topic, and I think that we need to continue to dialogue and converse, and there's a lot of hard work ahead of us. But at the end of the day, currently there is a ban in place. Let's utilize the affidavit, and let's keep the conversation going.
I'll just say, so I really appreciate, like the mayor mentioned earlier, that everybody was civil and we had a good discussion here tonight. It's kind of opened the door for Garden Grove to talk about it, because we haven't really talked about it much. It's been kind of the quiet underlying thing, and unless you lived next door to one, you didn't hear much about it. But, you know, the overwhelming thing that I keep hearing is it's very difficult to live next to one of these, and it does impact the neighborhoods. So I'm not in a rush to change anything, and like the mayor said, we're in changing times, and eventually maybe things will change. But for right now, I tend to lean towards the person that lives next door to these things, and maybe, the bad apples are ruining it for everybody as far as STR goes. But from what I've seen, the majority of the problems we've had it's just bad actors all over the place. So I'm in favor of keeping the ban as it is right now. As we move forward the next year or so, see what happens, and we'll go from there. But it gets the discussion going. I appreciate everybody coming out tonight and being civil. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Yeah. Well, for the last few months, I have heard a lot of people coming out here against STR. And last week, I heard a few that calling me and expressed their view in supporting the STR. And I think there are both the benefit on both. There is good and bad from both angles, right? But I think what we did not see tonight is, yes, short-term rental property owner invest more into their property because it makes money for them. So they invest more and they make the house look nicer. That's why that is correct. I think what the support side didn't see is the resident surrounding the short-term rental property. When they purchase their home, they expect that neighborhood to be a single family neighborhood. They did not expect it to be a short-term rental property. So it's their right that we impeach upon. So I think why you see the value the other way and your rationale seem to make sense. You forget the fact that it interferes with the right of those who have owned those properties surrounding your new properties. And so I think if you look from that angle, you can see how they feel. Certainly, I do not have any feeling against STR, but what I felt is that if we consider STR in the future, whether it is near future or far future, we need to look at what zone it can be on. Certainly, it can be on commercial zone if the zone allow it. Zoning in Garden Grove or any city is a vehicle, is a tool to allow us to plan for the resident and for the business in our city. And we do that for a purpose. You see an industrial zone where people can manufacture. You see commercial zone where people can do retails and residential. Now, at the deeper level, you see it breaking down between various level of residential, R1, R2, R3, or multi-family and apartment. Same thing with commercial. You see C1, C2, and C3. And so zoning is designed so that the people can enjoy a quality of life, and they can expect when they buy a property, they can expect what it can be for a long time. If we ever, and some of the people that I talk to that support STR have come up with suggestions that perhaps in the future, Garden Grove may consider certain special zone where property in that zone can operate an STR. And maybe that is a possibility, and maybe that is a good thing. But certainly, you cannot operate an STR anywhere in a single residential zone, because I think if we open that, we are very much open tens of thousands of homes in Garden Grove into an STR. Why not change all of Garden Grove into an STR city, where every house become an STR? So I hope you can understand that, and certainly I would entertain the idea to consider certain special zone if it makes sense. Some small area where people get a license to do an SCR, but I don't think it will work well for a citywide SCR in single-family zone.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Just a few quick ones. It was good getting this input. It doesn't affect my area too much at all on the west side of Garden Grove. Obviously, it's the tourist section of closest to Anaheim, and I think Anaheim is the case study for us to follow and view. They started it, now they've reversed on it. Well, there's a good reason for that. And we're in close proximity to Anaheim, and I could see some correlation between their closing down and things are starting up over here. So overall, I think our city's about preserving and protecting neighborhoods. I don't see the benefit outweighing the burden of this, of changing the ordinance as we have it. So I would like to continue with enforcement as we are, as it is on the books. And so with that, I would just say, I appreciate the information. We should maybe keep an open mind. I don't want to change any zoning, do anything to put commercial in residential areas. And so that's my position. Unless there's a stronger overriding argument, I think we should stick with what we have right now and keep going with enforcement the way it is.
Thank you. Any other comments? Otherwise, this is kind of just a receive and file, and we can move on.
Can I make that motion?
I don't think, there's no motion necessary.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just
Do we have to
information.
make a
item,
motion
yeah.
to receive and file?
With that, we'll move on to other agency business. We're going to go successor agency, and then after that is industrial, which is you, John, after. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, we'll wait just a minute for everybody to clear out.
Got it? Okay. That's the vice chairman there. You're waiting all year for that. Congratulations. By next year, wait, no.
5B, hit it. Yeah, already did. Yeah. It's two items just because they're sort of grouped together. One is
It's one?
It's like 5B and 5C.
Yeah, see,
But
it's
they're
so
both
close.
sort of, one is a general item, but it's sort of being done for the benefit of the project.
So can we lump two together?
No, but you gotta take those two, I think. Yeah. I think there may be a staff report that takes them both together, but then you gotta act on them separately. And I think the project is already. Thanks. It's a general plan amendment.
It's just an amendment.
Yeah, it's a, yeah. Nobody can be left. Yeah.
That's your decision.
Okay. There's nothing I can do. Shit happens.
You have two in the back.
I'll need to upload it on Friday, Friday afternoon. So now, is that when you wait till Friday afternoon? Friday afternoon, I'll upload it. Just go to the city group? Yeah, to the agendas and videos. You gotta count the letters too. Huh? You have to count the letters too. In opposition. This has come up before.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to successor agency items. Madam Clerk, would you like to call roll?
Member O'Neill.
Here.
Member Tu-Ha Nguyen.
Here.
Member Bowie.
Here.
Member Klovenstein.
Here.
Member Kim Nguyen.
Here.
Vice Chair Beard.
Here.
And Chair Jones.
Here. We already did oral communication simultaneously with City Council. We'll move on to consent items A and B. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve.
Second.
Call to vote.
Motion received, 7 yes votes.
Thank you. Any matters from agency members? Seeing none, we'll move on to Industrial Development Authority, John O'Neill.
All right, thank you. Okay, at this time, we'd like to open the annual meeting of the Industrial Development Authority. Do we want to call roll on that, Madam?
Yep. Member Beard?
Here.
Member Bowie?
Here.
Member Jones?
Here.
Member Klompenstein?
Here.
Member Tu-Ha-Win?
Here.
Vice Chair Kim Win?
Here.
And Chair O'Neill.
Here. Thank you. So we did have the oral communication simultaneously. We'll go to the consent items.
Move it.
2A and 2B. I've got a motion to move.
Second.
Second. Please vote.
Motion received, 7 yes votes.
Okay, we'll go to matters from any authority members. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and adjourn until our next regularly called meeting.
All right, we'll reconvene City Council. This takes us to consent items. It's recommended that items 4A through 4M are acted on simultaneously unless anyone would like to pull any items. Anyone like to pull or else a motion for the consent?
Yeah, actually, I did really quick.
Okay.
4I, please.
Okay.
It is approval, excuse me. Do I need to?
No.
Yeah.
Just 4I. You're pulling 4I.
I'm
Would
pulling
anyone,
4I.
Anyone else like to pull, or would you like to move the balance?
I'll move the balance.
Second it.
Call to vote.
Okay. Motion received, 7 yes votes.
Okay. For you.
Okay.
I mean, 4I.
Okay.
4I, for me. I just had a clarification question about 4I.
Yes.
If I may. I just wanted to clarify the financial impact, or if any city funds were being used. I just wanted to go over that again.
No, they're not. So the way these reimbursement agreements work for the environmental, and you'll see more of these come through as we do more environmental, anything that's over $50,000 has to come before you guys. So the way it works is we go in, the developer actually pays for the environmental, but us as the lead agency hire the environmental consultant. The developer then, once we get the bids in and a environmental consultant is picked, then what we do is we ask the developer to put that money on deposit. And we don't start the environmental until we actually get that money in hand. And then we release the consultant to do the work.
Very good. Like the bold print that says, "No work shall be performed by an environmental review consultant until developer has deposited such money with the city."
Yes.
Sums it up.
Okay.
That answers my question. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Is that a motion?
That is motion.
Call to vote.
She's quick.
Real quick, no.
Motion received, 7 yes votes.
Thank you. We'll move on to public hearings, item 5A.
Item 5A is an acceptance of fiscal year 2016-17 Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, CAPER, and Mr. Robbins is here to give the staff report.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. The item you have before you is the 2016-17 Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, also known as the CAPER. Federal law requires that all jurisdictions receiving Community Development Block Grant, Home Investment Partnership, and Emergency Solutions Grant funds assess the activities implemented during the program year and report accomplishments through the CAPER. During the program year, the city utilized its resources to expand and preserve affordable housing, to help senior citizens, and to combat homelessness. Some of our notable accomplishments include assisting 345 individuals and/or households with fair housing issues, assisting 1,141 seniors with services and meal delivery, reducing crime and gang activity in hotspots in low and moderate income areas, constructing 47 affordable units for low-income seniors and families, assisting 4 low-income households with rental assistance in the form of tenant-based rental assistance, providing homelessness prevention and rapid rehousing services to 26 families, and overnight shelters to help 252 homeless residents. The public review and comment period for the CAPER began on November 27th and continues until the conclusion of this public hearing tonight. Tonight, you're asked to hold a public hearing to collect public comments, to accept the report, and to direct staff to submit the report to CAPER, or submit the CAPER report to HUD. This concludes my staff report, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions of staff? Okay, seeing none, this is a public hearing item, so I'll open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on 5A? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Any comments or a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Call the vote.
Motion received, 7 yes votes.
Awesome. Okay, we'll now move on. I'm actually just going to recuse myself from 5B and 5C because I've got a business relationship with the applicant affected in 5C, and 5B is kind of a tangent item of that. So I'm going to ask Mayor Pro Tem Fatbouli to run 5B and 5C, and I'll leave the room.
Okay. Is there a staff report for 5B, adoption of the resolution approving general plan amendment number GPA 002-2017A?
Yes. City Council members, items 5B and 5C are a recommendation from the Planning Commission to approve general plan amendment numbers GPA-002-2017A and GPA-002-2017B, and to adopt a mitigated negative declaration for GPA-002-2017B. The items before you are being presented simultaneously due to their similarities. The map before you identifies 14 parcels as Site A under GPA 002-2017A, located on the north side of 11th Street between Brooker Street and Carey Street, and 1 parcel as Site B under GPA 002-2017B, located at 9841 11th Street. Upon receiving an application to develop Site B, planning staff reviewed the history of the properties and determined that a mapping error occurred during the general plan update in 2008. Staff also reviewed the history of the neighboring properties within the same block and determined the same mapping error had occurred on the remaining properties, with the exception of 2 commercially zoned properties on the northeast corner of the block. Therefore, the general plan amendment is required to fix the mapping error that occurred during the general plan update in 2008. Prior to 2008, the properties had a general plan land use designation of medium density residential, as shown in red, orange on the map before you, which was adopted in 1995. The civic institutional land use designation was added for the first time in the current general plan, which was adopted in 2008. This new land use designation is intended for educational uses such as elementary, middle, and high schools, colleges, universities, hospitals, and governmental facilities. The previous open space land use designation combined parks, school uses, golf courses, and other public and private open space land under one designation. In the current general plan, the city determined to keep the open space designation for recreational areas, such as parks, right-of-ways, flood channels, and introduce the civic institutional designation to government facilities and educational uses, such as the Martin E. Hill Elementary School located to the west across Carey Street. The subject properties were not included in the open space designation in the previous general plan. As mentioned before, prior to 2008, all of the properties had a land use designation of medium density residential. All of these properties were included in the change to civic institutional in the current general plan. However, the subject properties are developed mainly with residential uses, and all but one retain an R3 zoning, which is not consistent with the civic institutional general plan designation. Planning staff has reviewed the history of the general plan designations and has determined that the civic institutional land use designation on the properties is a result of a mapping error in the current general plan. As shown on the map on the left of the screen before you, the parcels all currently have a general plan land use designation of civic institutional. As shown on the map to the right of the screen, the properties are zoned R3 with the exception of the Islamic Society of Orange County, which is zoned PUD but has an R3 base zoning. The proposed land use designation of medium density residential would not affect the zoning of the properties. Rather, changing the subject properties back to the medium density residential designation will correct the mapping error and eliminate the current inconsistency between the general plan land use and R3 zoning. On November 2nd, 2017, the Planning Commission recommended approval of a general plan amendment, adoption of a mitigated negative declaration, and approval of a site plan to construct 10 units within a 3-story apartment building with a 35% affordable housing density bonus for low-income households on Site B, as well as recommended approval of a general plan amendment on the remaining 14 properties. Therefore, for item 5B, the recommendation of the Planning Commission is that the City Council conduct a public hearing and determine that the general plan amendment is categorically exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to Title 14, California Code of Regulations, Section 15061B3, and adopt a resolution approving general plan number GPA-002-2017A. And for item 5C, the recommendation of the Planning Commission is that the City Council conduct a public hearing and adopt a mitigated negative declaration and adopt a resolution approving general plan amendment number GPA-002-2017B. This concludes staff's report, and we are available for any questions.
Any question for staff? No. I now open the public hearing. Anyone would like to speak on item 5B or 5C?
We're going to need to do it separately.
Okay. Anyone who would like to speak on item 5B? Seeing none, I now close the public hearing. Is there any comment or motion?
Motion.
Second.
Please go for the vote.
Motion received, 6 yes votes, with Mayor Jones absent.
Now we move on to 5C. Is there a staff report? Oh, you already did it? Okay. So I would like to open the public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to speak on item 5C? Hearing none, I now close the public hearing. Is there any motion or comment?
Move to approve, unless
Second.
somebody had any comment.
Second.
Please go for the vote.
Motion received, 6 yes votes, with Mayor Jones absent.
And we now move to the item for consideration. Well, we already did that, is it? No. We are going to wait for the mayor to return.
Okay, items for consideration 6A.
Item 6A is to appropriate additional funds in the amount of $169,467.08 and award a contract to CDW-G for the implementation of a voice over Internet Protocol phone solution, including 5 years of maintenance. And Mr. Khalil is here to give the staff report.
Mr. Mayor and City Council, we are here to request the appropriation of funds in the amount of $169,467.08, and also request that you award a contract to CDWG to provide all labor, materials, equipment, support, training, and installation for the implementation of a Voice over Internet Protocol, or VoIP, phone system, including 5 years of service, support, and maintenance pursuant to RFP S-1216. The city's been using an AT&T Centrex phone system since 1995. This system not only has a high cost of ownership and operation, but it fails to offer effective, expected, and modern business features and services. Information technology staff researched current business telephony systems and determined that a VoIP phone system was in the best interest of the city. This new system will provide considerable ongoing savings and position the city to benefit from current technology and the future of telecommunication. It will reduce the overhead of managing the phone system, which will allow for a higher standard of customer service to the public and city staff. With these goals, city staff issued RFP S-1216 to replace the existing Centrex phone system and equipment with a VoIP solution. The original RFP resulted in 13 proposals from 10 vendors. These proposals included both on-premise and cloud solutions. The source selection committee was comprised of staff from Public Works, Police, and Information Technology. They evaluated the proposals based on price cost effectiveness, technology provided, scalability, implementation plan, as well as the qualifications of the proposer. The top 5 vendors were invited to demonstrate their proposed solutions. After those demos, the source selection committee scored again and chose the top 2 finalists. Each finalist was asked to present a mock discovery, describe their implementation process, and offer a best and final offer price, after which they were scored a final time. Based on this process, CDWG received the highest score and was chosen. Their proposal was an on-premise, Cisco-based VoIP solution. The committee felt the solution represented the best hardware and software. Additionally, it best integrated with the city's existing Cisco network infrastructure and was deemed to be the best future-proof solution. We anticipate implementing the solution by the end of February, or about 2/3 into the existing fiscal year. Because of this, we are asking for additional funds to be appropriated, as we will be paying 2/3 of our AT&T costs, as well as paying a one-time cost of $94,788 upfront for implementation, discovery, project management, and training. We will also need to pay the first interest-free payment of $64,679.08 for the Cisco equipment, as well as $10,000 annually to an internet telephony service provider. The ongoing cost of this phone system, however, will result in $175,000 of annual savings over the existing AT&T Centrex solution. Thus, over 5 years, even with the appropriation of $169,467, the project will result in over $700,000 of savings, while also dramatically improving the phone capabilities of this organization. I'd like to point out that these are conservative estimates. It is likely that the savings could actually be higher. Our current monthly AT&T bill is complicated and over 2,000 pages long. Once Centrex has been replaced, the bill will be reduced dramatically in size, at which time a more accurate analysis can be done. The appropriation of $169,467.08 does not take into account any savings from AT&T for the current fiscal year. If the project is indeed implemented before the end of February as planned, it should result in a reduced AT&T bill for the last 4 months of the current fiscal year. Any funds not used would be returned as a starting balance for fiscal year 2018-19. We appreciate your consideration and are here to answer any of your questions.
Thanks, Charles. Any questions? Stephanie?
For me, I think what jumps out is projected cost reduction. That's always kind of nice. $175,000 annually. Would that be right out of the gate, or that's years 2 through 5, is that correct?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor and to Councilmember Klopfenstein, that is correct. So for anybody in the public that's watching this and saying we've got a lot of needs, why would we be spending $169,000 in the first year? It's really important to emphasize. So years 2, 3, 4, and 5, we anticipate cost reductions to the city's general fund of $175,000 a year. As Mr. Khalil indicated, approximately $700,000 in savings over that time. So spending a little bit of money up front over the course of 5 years, saving a lot to the city. And we get a brand new phone system that's over 20 years old, really antiquated, will help us with some of the security of our system, how we communicate with our public safety personnel, and a wide range of benefits, I think, to our community.
Any other questions or comments?
Yes. Certainly, 2 years return of investment is a very, very good proposition. And I can appreciate the fact that you mentioned that we are upgrading the phone system not just because it is old or because we want a new, higher technology, better technology, but we're doing it because it saves us a lot of money in year 3, 4, and 5. But I'm very interested in whenever I see a 0% interest loans, because recently I've been looking at the water obligation. So I'm really amused at this 0% interest here. Is this loans financed by the manufacturer or by the service provider?
It's financed by the manufacturer. This is a common practice for Cisco that they do with a lot of their customers. They have a lot of equipment. They also have a lot of cash. Getting the equipment out is a very effective means for them to do these 0% finance. It's a fairly common practice.
That's great. We most of us get used to the fact that we can get 0% loan on the cell phone, smartphone, and computers, and so this is really good. Thank you. I have no more questions.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, seems like a no-brainer to me. I'd like to move it. Call to vote.
Motion received, 7 yes votes.
Thank you. Moves us on to ordinances presented for a second reading. 7A, second reading and adoption of ordinance number 2889.
That is entitled an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Garden Grove approving a development agreement between Investal Garden Resorts LLC and the City of Garden Grove for property located on the northeast corner of Harbor Boulevard and Twin Tree Lane, west of Choicer Road at 12222, 12252, 12262, 12272, 12292, and 12302 Harbor Boulevard, 12511, 12531, 12551, and 12571 Twin Tree Lane, and 12233, 12235, 12237, and 12239 Choicer Road. Assessors parcel numbers 231492120, 2315201, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, and 2, 3, 1, 4, 9, 1, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19.
Good job. This is not a public hearing item, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Any questions, comments? Otherwise, I would like to make a motion.
Second. Sorry.
Call to vote.
Motion received, 6 yes votes, with Councilmember Bowie abstaining.
Right, and I just want, Mayor and Council Member, just want to say that the reason I abstained because I wasn't here last week because I was in meditation retreat, and so I don't feel that I would support on this.
Thank you. That brings us on to matters. Any matters from council members? Chris Beard.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say, since it's our last council meeting for the year, I want to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, all my colleagues, staff, all the citizens out there, friends and neighbors, happiest of holidays, and a very healthy, happy, and prosperous New Year ahead. It's been a great year, too, I want to say.
Yeah.
And I thank you all for that.
It has. All right. Same here. I just want to wish happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. I hope everyone has a very safe and prosperous New Year. And to echo on what Councilman Beard just said, you know, we've completed a year with a mostly new council here, and we don't agree all the time on every issue, but we're getting things done for the people, I think, and we're thinkers, and we make sure it's good for everybody in the city. So we're going to keep moving that forward and get things done, and look forward to the new year.
Happy holiday, everyone. This is the last council meeting for the 2017. We make it through the year, and I'm thankful for all the collaborations of the city staff and the constituents who reach out to me, and we continue to serve the constituent of Garden Grove, and we look forward to 2018. Thank you.
Just want to wish everyone a happy and safe holiday. It's been a blessed year so far. I think coming full circle, I think my first event as council member-elect was the Christmas tree lighting. So to go there now as an elected and be there with everyone was really great. I want to wish Ashton Jones a speedy recovery. And I want to just also say thank you, Alabama.
Well, as we close the year, it has been a whirlwind, but a very exciting one, one full of a lot of hard work. It's been wonderful to serve with all of you on council this first year. I'm excited for 2018. It's an honor to serve Garden Grove, and I just want to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas.
Mayor and council members, residents of Garden Grove, it's been quite a years for Garden Grove. We have first years, we have district, and increased from 5 council members to 7. And when we head into this area, I was very, very concerned that we only have 3 senior council members and 4 new ones. But it turned out it's a good thing. It's a blessing for us. And together, the 7 council members have moved things along really well. We have a lot in the pipeline. With the mayor is leading the exploration of what we can do with the Willow Wicks. That's a brilliant idea, and I think we still have quite a few major projects to work on, and so the challenge is ahead of us. But I think with this council member, we will be able to achieve that. And I wish everyone a happy Merry Christmas, Happy New Year's, and be safe. If you have a live Christmas tree at home, make sure the water is always at the base.
I didn't know all y'all were going to get all sappy and end of the year-ish.
Chris,
I mean,
he
so
started
now I
it.
feel compelled that
He
I got to
started.
go there too. But
From the heart, Mayor, from the heart.
yeah, I just want to say this has been an amazing year. I feel very blessed and honored to be the mayor of this city at this time with everything that we've got going on and with this group that we have in place at all levels. It's been a fabulous year, and as everyone said, we've got a lot of cool stuff that we accomplished already in the first year. We got a lot of even bigger stuff in the works. So everybody be ready to keep your sleeves rolled up and keep working hard, which I know we're all doing. But it's a wonderful council. We have a wonderful leadership team inside at City Hall that's just working hard every day and pushing and driving our agenda forward and trying to make this a better city, and just a real class act of an operation. And I'm very proud and honored to be a part of it. So thanks. With that, I'll turn it over to City Manager for any comments.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Just a couple items from my standpoint. The staff is reminding me to mention to the public that our holiday campaign, Black Friday Goes Big, continues. Just a reminder that this is the final week to turn in your receipts to the Garden Grove Chamber of Commerce for the city's end-of-year Buying Garden Grove campaign. Black Friday Goes Big. The deadline is 5 p.m. this Friday, December 15th. Every $50 spent in total register receipts from any Garden Grove business gives you the chance to win $500 or a night's stay at the Great Wolf Lodge, Southern California. You can visit the city's website or social media to learn more and we wish everyone good luck to try and win. Couple other things I want to mention very briefly to you. The staff are very grateful to the City Council for your funding of the Police Administration renovation project, and so I want to let you know that that project has been complete. That building was, I think, built and constructed in 1971. When you went in there, this is the communication, the dispatch, the records section. It's pretty dark and dingy in there, and the police chief reports to me that the space has now been completed. It's very open, very light, airy. It's made a big difference to his staff that are working in there, and I know they're very grateful. It adds some of the safety and security features to the building as well. So I would suggest if anybody's interested, feel free to stop by, and I'm sure they'll be happy to kind of show you around and take a look at it. It's right across the street, all the fencing's down. It looks great. So thank you to everybody on council for investing in our police department. I know it means a lot to them. On that topic, I will also mention to you that tomorrow night, the police department has their annual Citizen Academy graduation dinner, and I know some people, maybe some of you or some people in our audience, I think, participated in that Citizen Academy. It's a good experience. Really, people learn a lot about what goes into our public safety and how we operate, how we get things done. And so if people out in the community are ever interested participating in that, I would suggest contacting the police department. They can give you all the details related to that. And then the final thing I want to mention, just for everyone to know, as annual practice, this City Hall, I think, is closed December 25th through January 1st. So want to encourage everybody that has business to do with the city to try and get to us before that date, and we'll do everything we can to take care of things. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Manager, I just realized one thing, that could you let the public know what to do if they have an emergency, like fire or special inspection? Who do they call?
If they're during that time and they have obviously an emergency, that they need to call 911, and police and fire will be there to respond to any and all emergencies that they have. And if they call through those numbers, they can always get information to staff if we have emergencies related to building code violations. We have staff on call during that time to respond
And
as well.
what number should they call? I remember 2 years ago, during Christmas shutdown, a resident called me because there is a fire department. They call 911, of course. Fire department came out to take out the fire, but they have to shut down the electricity. And the next day, there's no one to come to inspect and reopen the and approve it. So.
Yeah.
So there's numerous calls around, and 2 days pass before we can get someone to come out and inspect and allow Edison to turn on the electricity. So I want to avoid that and would like to alert the public to what to do when that situation arises.
Okay, so if there's an emergency, residents can call the PD business line, which is 741-5704, and that will also access fire.
Okay.
So it's not the 911, but just the regular business.
So for special code or building inspection, they need to call police dispatch in order, and police dispatch will then contact the inspector to send someone to inspect.
That's correct.
Okay.
Thank you. With that, we are adjourned.